Brother John Wood, thank you so much for the opportunity to speak with you and your time for doing this with us. You have been a Mason since the 70s.
January 4, 1974.
So I met you about 18 years ago. I went back and looked last night to see when I got affiliated in El Paso. It's been about 18 years, pretty close to 2 decades. Throughout the years, one of the things about you that has always stood out is that you've always been very serviceable to all the brothers and very knowledgeable about the rules and the lore. Tell me what attracted you to Masonry. How did you first find out about it, and what was it that it made you come in?
I found out about it through my dad. My dad became a Mason when I was a teenager, and I noticed that the guys that were coaching him were people that I knew in the town and just didn't know they were Masons. And I respected all of them. So I kind of got a liking for it back then. So,
do you recall the feeling of walking into the lodge for the first time?
It's amazing. You don't expect the colors, the cleanliness of the lodge, how historical items are pictured around the lodge. It's awe-inspiring, actually.
Was your grandfather also a Mason?
I'm not sure. I think I had a grandfather on my mother's side that was, but it's only things I've read in history.
What state was your father a Mason in?
Oklahoma.
And where did you become a Mason?
In New Mexico.
Well, what was that story? What was that like?
Well, I traveled with Sears, and I was trying to become a Mason everywhere I went. I separated from the military, and my first assignment with Sears was at Sweetwater, Texas. And I tried to join Masonry there, but you had to have a year of time living in the county. Didn't have it. So before I got the year, though, I got promoted to Carlsbad, New Mexico. And in Carlsbad, one of the advertisers for a radio station there came in, and he was selling me airtime, and I saw his Masonic ring, got talking to him, and he told me he'd come back 1 year from the day I established residence in Carlsbad. And 1 year and a day later, he walked in with a petition, just had me sign it. I was good to go.
He had it down in his calendar. Huh?
Yep, he had it on his calendar.
So tell me about that experience. What was the most memorable about joining that first year of Masonry for you?
Well, the people that was involved, they were actually leaders of Carlsbad, New Mexico. 2 of us received the EA degree that night, and the man that I received the degree with, there was a place out in the west side of Carlsbad, but he was a badger. They had animals, pumas, badgers, and stuff like that out there, plus all the agave, lechegi, and stuff like that.
What have you seen change in regards to the lodge atmosphere throughout the decade?
When I joined, it was full of a lot of people that were middle-aged, and they have since become old, and a lot of them have died. And I see today younger people joining the Masonry. I'm really proud of these young people that have come in. I advocated 20 years ago that some of these guys coming in should be working more in management of Masonic lodges. They're there now. It's starting to come in. It's amazing the camaraderie that you get, the friendships that you establish with the guys that work in your degree.
Yeah.
I had a little old man. He was my coach. Name was Mr. Austin. I can't remember his first name, but he was very old at the time. And he used to come by my store, and he'd walk in my door. He'd stick his head in my door, says, "You got 15 minutes to be coached?" "Yes, Mr. Austin." He'd come in, close the door, and I'd tell the secretary not to bother me for the next 30 minutes. He'd come in, and he'd watch his clock. He had his watch on. He'd sit there, and he had a Mr. Magoo hat on. Sprinkled face, glasses like Mr. Magoo, and very quiet. He'd start coaching me, and then all of a sudden, his 20 minutes was up. He'd say, "I'll see you tomorrow." And he'd get up, walk out. And it's like every day. He did it 4 or 5 days a week.
Wow.
And till I got through it. And it surprised me, when you start, you sweat because there's a lot to remember. It really is. And then you have a job on top of it. But you find out you can learn things that you thought you couldn't.
How did Masonry affect your everyday job and your status in the community with your family?
It was very positive. I had a lot of friends, motel owners, presidents of the Chamber of Commerce. We had the guy that actually owned White City out there when you traveled to Carlsbad. His name was Jack White. He owned a motel in town. Well, that was his town, too. His dad founded it many years ago. So, yeah, it was very good. Had a lot of doors opened up to me because of it, but you still have to perform.
And you were mentioning earlier that you had some friends that were actually part of the OSS.
I joined El Paso Lodge in 1986, I believe it was, and there was E.P. Brown and Mr. Blizzard. And E.P. Brown was a member of OSS. When they transitioned over to the CIA, they both went to the CIA. Great stories. Oh, my God, you wouldn't believe. I had Joe Davis, who was a past master of El Paso 130. He worked for Air America during Vietnam. He repaired airplanes. When Frontier was out here, he was their chief airplane mechanic. When they moved away, he still continued some semblance of a career with them, but he finally retired. But he had great stories about Vietnam, Air America planes being shot down and then trying to fix them while they were being attacked to get them off the ground. I've met a few people like retired generals, but they were in other towns. We had Fulcrum, I think was his name, but anyway, he was also part of during World War II. He was a part of Signal Intercept. Yeah, I sent him his dues notice, and he called me back, and I didn't know he was in Chicago. He called me back. Why the heck don't you just send it over the internet, email? I was just barely. I'm not computer literate, It's like, well, if you could just pay that, because I don't have access to the computer to get it to. You need to get one. He chewed me out over the phone, but it was funny. He was already way ahead of his time in communication over the internet. And it's like, okay, we got a computer later on, and I finally sent it in. The Grand Lodge law said I couldn't do it over the internet, so for a long time, but finally here about the last 10 years, we can send notices out, pay your dues.
Yeah.
But he has since passed. So.
And you mentioned another story about somebody owing dues earlier.
Yeah, I had a couple come in just before COVID lockdown, and they were elderly. They were probably in their early 80s, and the lady did most of the talking, but her husband's father was a member of El Paso 130, wanted to know if they could get some records, find out. So I went back through our archives and found a record where it was a letter written by John T. Rice to his father that did he want to lose his membership? And this is like the 1920s. Did he really want to lose his membership in El Paso Lodge 130 over $7.84? This El Paso Lodge was the largest lodge between L.A. and New York. It had 3,998 members, and being the largest lodge in the United States, did he really want to lose his membership? And of course, a few weeks later, a letter comes back from this brother, and he says, Brother Rice, I'm in Panama Canal area. I'm part of the construction of the Panama Canal. I'll be back in El Paso in about 3 or 4 months. And as soon as I'm back in El Paso, I'll come back and pay your $7.84. So it's like, yeah. So members of Masonry were part of the construction of the Panama Canal. And I know for a fact that I think Texas opened a lodge in the Panama Canal also for U.S. citizens to attend lodge.
Yeah, it's incredible the influence that El Paso has had in the history of not just our city, but the entire state and nation at this point.
Right.
Another famous personality, you mentioned you have seen the petition to Stottlemyre.
Yes, Stottlemyre, Paso. Yeah, he was a member of our lodge. When he finally passed, we ended up paying for his funeral. So it was It was very nice. A lot of history. The first 5 mayors of El Paso were all members of El Paso 130. The first 5 postmasters were members of El Paso 130. The first federal judge appointed to the El Paso area, a member of 130, Solomon Schutz. We have a rich history with El Paso. A lot of politicians had a lot of government entities, part of the taxation collection part of it, but more than that, we had businessmen downtown, vendors or retailers, pharmacists, doctors, lawyers. It was quite a crew, an assortment of people that we had. One of my really close friends is Maury Cohen. Maury Cohen he'll be 99 on September the 8th, which we're September the 4th now. So in about 4 days, he'll be 99 years old.
Wow.
He now is in a nursing home, but his dad was a member of El Paso 130. His uncles were members of El Paso 130. So we have a long history with the Jewish community in El Paso.
Do you recall that transition from El Paso getting the charter, being San Eli, and coming over here?
Yeah, in 1854, when we chartered our lodge, it was chartered with the help of Alamo Lodge number 44 in San Antonio. And back then, you had to be sponsored by another lodge. Well, they sponsored us. The first lodge in the county is always at the county seat. The county seat was San Elizario. So that's where the charter went. But a few weeks later, it was arrested and brought downtown, and our lodge charter went downtown with it at the same time. So long history there. There's no history of us ever meeting in San Elizario. Our first meetings was in a little adobe building where the Popular Dry Goods store is, and that was torn down. We moved into the second floor of the building next to it, and then the Popular Dry Goods was built, and then we were on the third floor of the Popular Dry Goods. The Schwartz family was very, very prominent with El Paso 130.
And Adolph Schwartz was also a past master, right?
Yes.
So when the tall building, the 5-story building, was torn down, what happened with all that furniture?
It was passed around or actually given to a lot of lodges in El Paso. 2 or 3 lodges have some of our furniture. Some of it may have gone to other parts of the state. It was 1968, 69 when that building was 69, I believe, when the building was torn down. We moved in here in 1970, and for a very short period of time, we met in the Wallace Houston Lodge before we moved in here.
So are we sitting on some of the original chairs?
We are sitting on some of the original chairs. Been here since the late 1800s, early 1900s, yes.
Wow, we could possibly be sitting where Solomon Schwartz sat.
Absolutely.
This is crazy.
Yeah.
Well, in regards to that atmosphere, we have a sense that in the beginning of El Paso history and Masonry in El Paso, the Brotherhood was not just prolific in the city, but very tight bond. You see a lot of in exchange of buildings being sold amongst each other. There was a few banks that were open, dry goods stores, a cigar store, manufacturer. Mm-hmm. Why do you suppose that has been watered down a bit?
I'm not sure. We went through a period of time. We had a problem with the Catholic Church. That was a problem. And then a lot of businesses that were centered here in El Paso got bought by other businesses who then transferred the headquarters to Dallas and LA and places like that. So those people moved out. The electric company is a fine example. The founders of the electric company were members of El Paso 130. When they sold out to a bigger concern, I think it was out of Dallas, they moved with the electric company. And the people here have less sway with their organization. So, yeah, it's been quite of a ride.
And what do you suppose Masonry still has to offer for the new generation of entrepreneurs out there, of civic leaders, of all these personalities that are trying to cause change in the community? How does Masonry come in there?
Masonry comes in because of most people are not real strong about getting up in front of people. From the very first time you enter, you actually address the lodge. And then as you grow, you begin to gain kind of an awareness of how you present yourself to the public. In this case, it starts in the lodge, but then it transfers to the public too. We find members that come in that don't have a good grasp of the English language. As Spanish is a primary language, and before it's over with, they learn our ritual, which is English, and they speak English very well.
In Masonry, what role has challenged you the most?
What rule?
What role?
Oh, role. The secretary of the lodge.
Yeah. That's quite a job.
Yeah, it is. At one time, I don't know. Well, I do know how they did it. When I joined the lodge, the lodge secretary was Robert Reddick. Robert Reddick was the worshipful master of El Paso Lodge 130 in 1954, which was its 100th anniversary. From 1854 to 1954, so he was the 100th master of the lodge. And Robert Reddick, he used to have secretaries that worked for him. When I first joined, there was a lady that worked in there. She did all the clerical postings on ledger books and stuff like that. But then as the membership died, moved away, whatever, it got down to where it was one guy. Men typically are not real good at the paperwork. You have to post ledgers. Yeah, they've completed this, they've done that. So it's like it gets to be a little bit of a hassle, but we do accomplish it.
Have you noticed a generational shift in regards to the members?
Yes.
What is the biggest difference from the old times to now?
The young people want to make changes right now, and the old people say, well, we've always done it this way. We don't want to change. That really is probably the biggest change we have. So you try to tell the guys that have been running the lodge for decades, we need to change some things. They really don't like it, but finally come to the conclusion that that's going to happen whether they're here or not. So it's like, yeah, the young people are actually stepping up. They're becoming secretaries of the lodge. I was secretary here for 15 years, but in June I found somebody that would replace me. I don't want to say he was gullible. He was very kind to take over the secretarial duties. On an annual basis, we replace our worshipful masters. And last several years, we've had young Masons come in and take over the leadership role. Business people, we have border patrol agents, we have just a wonderful mix of people. So it's nice.
Do you remember any traditions in particular that you've seen fade away?
No, what I actually see right now is El Paso Lodge 130 always opened in a Master Mason's lodge, always wore suits. And that's one of the biggest problems that we have is the young guys coming today don't really like to dress up in suits. You actually have to kind of twist your arm a little bit just to put a sport coat on and a tie. But eventually they start doing it. But that was back in the earlier days, if you wanted to get ahead in life, you actually had to dress up to go out to the business community. You had to have a suit, tie, and whatever. And they were forced to do that. Well, today, you don't always have to wear a suit to be in business. So they can work anonymously behind a computer. Nobody sees them except from the waist up, maybe. But here, when you show up, we want you to dress nicely because you don't, if you honor or respect the place you're going, you should dress up just a little bit. I remember when you used to dress up to go to the grocery store or the grocery store. People don't do that anymore. You'll see people in their PJs and everything else, short shorts. Yeah. But I remember my parents, when they were getting ready to go to the grocery store, they dress up like it was going to church. So.
Now, in regards to the lodge working and the actual ritual, have you seen any changes in that?
Very little. It's from time immemorial. So you go back as far in history as you can. The ritual is very, very similar. They may change a word over the years, and because of the lighting and the stuff that we have today that they didn't have in the old days, they actually had candles instead of electric lights. Virtually everything is the same. It don't change very often. In reality, we only have 5 committeeal work members in the state of Texas, and they regulate what's said and done in the lodges, and they try to keep the east side of Texas and the west side of Texas operating on the same wavelength. If I go to East Texas, they should recognize my work and I should recognize theirs if they come over here.
Have you been to another jurisdiction where the ritual was very impactful and very different?
Oh, yeah. New Mexico.
Tell me about it.
New Mexico, their ritual is more hands-on than ours. If they want to find out you're a Mason and they come right to you in the middle of the lodge as they're trying to open it, and they'll ask you, let me see you do this card. Can you give me the word or whatever? And it's like, oh, okay. We need to take this brother out and examine him. So, cause between states, between grand jurisdictions, while our work are very, very similar, they're not exactly the same. We may use and I can't remember. You can have 2 or 3 words that mean the same thing, but ours is this word and theirs will be a different word. So it's
yeah. And in regards to the Texas ritual, what do you feel makes it different from all other ritual?
We're pretty solid about our ritual. You go to other states. Now, some states have watered theirs down a little bit. Like you can become an EA, a master, entered apprentice, a master, fellowcraft, and a master all in one day.
Wow.
You can't do it in Texas. I found out I had a friend. He was a Mason in Dallas, and I was kind of making fun of the people that went all the way in one day. And he kind of got his feelings hurt. Bobby looked at me and says, "Well, John, I did that." And he had a certificate. The ritual work, we get examined on an annual basis of what our proficiency is in our ritual. And he was a district instructor.
Wow.
And I'm sitting there, so it's not necessarily a bad thing, but he probably would have joined even if it took him a while to get through the proficiency. So, but it Georgia and places like Washington State, one day all the way.
Yeah. And you were talking about being replaced as a secretary. Is there a training period?
There is a training period. He has to go to, I believe, Dallas this month, actually, to be trained. It'll be a 3-day training session. It should help him to learn how to get onto our peculiar website. We have changed. We switched from a computer operating system that Grand Lodge controlled to one that a particular company controls, but they control it for like 40 grand jurisdictions. It's not just Texas. It took us a lot of years to just say, yeah, but then we had to send people over to tell them, you do this, and we don't, you need to change this. So they customized it a little bit just for Texas.
What do you feel is the most challenging part of being secretary?
Probably taking care of all the paperwork, the posting, because when they come in, you've got records you have to keep locally, then you have to let the Grand Lodge know, and every time the proficiency exam happens, Grand Lodge finds out, you have to notify Grand Lodge, and then your various degrees, and then if there's any honors that you give them, if they become one of the appointed a junior deacon, senior deacon, Grand Lodge has to know. They keep a very good record of all the things that you do for masonry in the state. So it's very nice.
Have you received any honors?
I received 25, 40, and 50-year awards. I received my 50-year award last year.
Were any of those more impactful or more significant to you personally?
I think the 50-year award was. It surprises you. The 25 and 40-year awards are lodge awards. The 50 years Grand Lodge Award recognizing you. So I was also appointed the Grand Chaplain in 2020 under Grand Master Paul Underwood at that time.
What is it like working with Grand Lodge?
Grand Lodge, it's wonderful. You have access and gain knowledge about what actually happens at Grand Lodge. All the things that we do out here that goes there, they have a very small crew considering how many people and lodges they have in the state, and they are accumulating all this knowledge for the state and putting it in one platform or maybe 2 platforms. Then they're having to order the supplies and stuff necessary for all the degrees, for the educational programs we have. it's just amazing the amount of work that they do. I'm amazed at the people that work for the Grand Secretary. You know, we're the Grand Secretary for Texas is kind of like when we had 4,000 members, we had secretaries for the secretary. Well, he's got people working for him. He's got like 5 or 6 working for him, and they do a marvelous job of keeping track of where we are. So,
in regards to the Paso Lodge 130 in its history, do you remember there was a tough period of time? How did they recover from that?
The only tough period of time was actually during the Civil War, I believe. I think there was one year we actually shut down almost. It was almost totally shut down. And with that year, or those 2 years, we actually had one watchful master. He worked for 2 years during that period of time. But then eventually our third secretary, Joseph Magoffin, he had his land confiscated by the Union. It took him years to get it back. But we had a rough period. Yes, the Magoffin home. There was a doctor that was a member of the lodge that lived right across the street from Magoffin, and he and Magoffin would jump the buckboard and drive down the street just to our lodge to go to lodge. Funny tale: that doctor was abducted one night by a group of hostile people from Mexico. Their leader had been wounded in a holdup. They had robbed a bank or mine or something. But anyway, one night there's a knock on the door. The doc opens the door, and here's 3 or 4 guys with their pistols. You're coming with us, Doc. Our leader needs your help. And on the way there, they told him if he doesn't survive, you don't need him.
Wow.
So 3 days later, the leader he gets better. So they had actually put a sack over his head, is the way the tale goes. But anyway, they put a sack back over his head and delivered him back to his home. And when they took the sack off, they handed him a bag of gold.
Wow.
They paid him for it, but the consequence was very different if it hadn't survived. So yeah, Simeon Hart to Hart's Mill. Our first meetings is believed to have occurred at Hart's Mill. He was one of our founding charter members. Very, very sharp businessman. Porfirio Díaz, when he passed, we provided a mausoleum for his body for many years, plus his general.
Okay.
Yeah, we actually had their bodies down in our mausoleum for several decades. I think it was like 20 years before Mexico finally would allow the family to bring Porfirio Díaz's body back to Mexico, but the general couldn't. They did not want him back, so he's buried down in Evergreen on Alameda, I believe. So.
And that mausoleum was used for the ceremonies, right? For whenever any brother passed away?
Yes. Yeah.
Tell me more history about the cemetery that you could recall.
Well, our cemetery originally was down there where the library was, down on, I believe it was Oregon Street. So whenever our building disappeared or went away, they started excavating the land. They found bodies, so they started digging up the bodies and bringing them out here to Concordia and burying them. And some of the bodies, they're buried all over out there, but a lot of them are in our cemeteries. We have many of them that we can account for. We know where some of them are buried, but they're not really accessible. So,
oh wow,
there's some bodies that we believe to be out there underneath the street, Stevens, and that strip center across the street from the mausoleum. There's 1 or 2 believed to be underneath their foundations. So,
what message would you give those beginning brothers, and what message would you give those considering to join?
For the beginning brothers, keep at it, because it's a long history of fraternal relationships. The camaraderie that we have, and I use that word too much, camaraderie. I think it's about 4 times I've used it, but it's the friendships that you gain in here. It's like-minded men. Normally, they're very civic-minded, law-abiding people that join our lodge. The friendships that you gain, it's really difficult to gain other places. And for those that want to join, I have one member that, matter of fact, he's our senior warden right now. No. He's a past master. He told me, he says, I thought I couldn't learn anymore. He says, I found out that I still can learn. He was like in his 40s. He says, and he went back to college and got a degree. And our senior warden is doing it right now. He's going for his doctorate. So it's like they find out that you're not too old to learn. You can still learn. And that's one of the deals that we get in Masonry is the face-to-face memorization, education. So it's a wonderful experience.
How do you feel you would like Paso Lodge 130 to be remembered or to be seen as?
Well, I wanted it to be seen as the premier lodge in town, but it's we have the longest history of any lodge in town. We want to be welcoming to the people, the public that wants to come in and would like to see if they'd like to join us. We meet the first Wednesday every month. You get a free meal out of it if you want to come by at 6:30 on that first Wednesday. Find out what we're about.
And personally, what would you like your legacy to be remembered as in the craft?
As a mentor for these young guys that have come in, that's my legacy. These young guys are like my kids. I look at them fondly. I take them when they're very young, can barely walk in masonry, and all of a sudden they're leaders in the lodge. They're my family, so that's my legacy.
Anything you feel we should know?
That I can tell you?
Yeah.
No, I can't think of anything. It's been a wonderful experience. I didn't think I could actually talk that much about masonry, to tell you the truth, but yeah, it's been a wonderful experience.
But I thank you very much for this opportunity. I hope that we're able to maybe come back and if you think of more stories, do a follow-up. I appreciate you as a brother. I appreciate you as a mentor. And thank you for all your service that you've done for the craft and for all of us.
Brother Lord, thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Yes, sir.
Builders of the desert, raising truth in measure. From darkness into light, we craft the greater treasure. Word of deed and step, we set the stone just right. Builders of the desert, bringing temple to the night. Yeah. Tracks in the sand that goes older than the sun. Square upon the level, still the work is never done. All keeps watch, star above the rain. Grip becomes a promise and the world begins to change. Yeah. From silence and the sound. Builders of the desert, raising truth in measure. From darkness into light, we craft the greater treasure. Word of deed and step, we set the stone just right. Builders of the desert, bringing temple to the night. Yeah.